meeting to order. Yep, there we go. Now I will call this meeting to order. Our first item is, as always, roll call. Michael, you can do it electronically, so you don't have to call everybody's name if that is fine.
We can do that. If everyone, well, I think I could just look through. I'll look through the Zoom.
Okay, yeah, you can look if you bring up participants. It brings up the list, and you can also search by name if you want to. So what I usually do is mark everybody that's there, and then if they're not there, I'll periodically search for their names to see if I just missed them.
I'll keep looking throughout the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Perfect. So moving on to the next item, it is approval of the minutes from April 25th. So we have two different sets of minutes from that meeting, from the first half of the meeting with the old Senate, and then the second from the second half of the meeting with the new Senate. I want to let you know that we did reach out to the outgoing senators present at the first half of the April meeting for their approval of the minutes, and we received and incorporated one correction. So we are good to go for us to vote on both sets of minutes. So first, is there any discussion about minutes, any questions, any changes that need to be made? All right, if not, then I will need a motion for the minutes.
A second.
Okay, well, I will motion, and then you can second.
You moved. I said I second. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So we will need to vote. So, and again, just a recap of how we've been voting, due to some issues that we had, last year or 2 years ago, by voting by a chat or by SurveyMonkey. We've been doing this electronically by raising your hand or using the raise hand function in Zoom. So we will be doing that this way for at least for this and the July meeting. So all in favor of approval of the minutes, raise your hand. And then keep them up until we get the go ahead from Michael and Josh.
I have 19, including myself.
All right, I have that as well. All right, you can go ahead and lower your hands. Any opposed? And any abstentions? Lingao, you're an abstention?
Yes, I was not there. I'm a new member to the Senate, so it makes sense that I will abstain this time.
Sounds good. Thank you. And did I pronounce your name correctly?
That's right. Thanks, Ben.
Oh, thank you.
Just the one abstention. No no's.
Okay, awesome. You can go ahead and lower your hand, and then the minutes have been approved. All right. Any questions? All right, we'll keep moving. Next on the agenda are my remarks. I have a couple things I want to say, not a lot, because I've only been in this role for less than a month now. And I have a lot of meetings coming up this week that I'll report on in the next meeting as well. But first, I want to welcome our newly elected Senate members, Li-Chen Wang, Gary Apgar, Khalid Maxim, Lingao Bu, and Sarah Lewison, who were elected through the extended general elections. Thank you guys very much for volunteering to serve with us. And I want to thank everybody on Senate for submitting their committee preference sheets. The committees have been formed, and I encourage all committees to either meet or coordinate through email to choose a chair or co-chairs for their committee before the next executive council meeting, which will be on July 11th. And I really do encourage those who have served on those committees, on the same committee previously, to take those leadership roles. As a reminder, chairs of the standing committees will be part of the executive council, which again meets on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. the week before the Senate meeting. And our role is mainly to establish what the agenda is going to be for the FS meeting. And then we have several items for UAPC that will need to be reviewed and presented at the July 18th Senate meeting. So it really is extremely important for the UAPC to choose their chair or co-chairs as soon as possible. And if you guys need any help with that, then please let me know. I'm happy to play a role in that as well. Second, I want to congratulate everyone for making it through the semester in another school year. We did it. Give yourselves and your fellow faculty a well-deserved pat on the back and make sure that you support your graduating students either at graduation this weekend or in any which way that you can. Third, I need a volunteer, a sort of an urgent volunteer to help count votes for the CAM School of Architecture faculty vote. It's voting on its permanent school director candidate tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And I have a meeting that is in conflict, so I cannot attend. It's part of their CASA operating paper, which is the one they're currently working under, which states that ballots will be counted by a faculty senator and a faculty associate representative. So I will need a volunteer for that. Sarah?
Oh, I already said I would do it, but does that mean you need another person, is what you're saying?
Well, we just need one faculty senator to help count votes.
Well, I said I would do it. They said they needed somebody who was a union member. So is that 2 people you're looking for? And I happen to be on both things.
Yeah, so we need one
You
associate.
need one more person. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll need one more that if you're acting as the associate representative, we'll need a second person. So is anybody willing to volunteer? It should be a short meeting, about 10 minutes to count votes tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the communications building. And I really need a volunteer. Anybody available?
I'll do it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I will send you an email with all of the information as soon as the meeting is over. Thank you. I'm going to write that down really quick. Okay, and then the last item I have on my remarks is just to remind everybody that we will have a meeting on July 18th, excuse me, and this meeting will be online and a full FS meeting. So just make sure you have that on your calendars. And that is all I have. Any questions for me?
Can you
All
repeat
right.
that? July what? July?
18th. Same time, 1 p.m. on Zoom. Any other questions? All right, we can move on to our next item, which is our Q&A session with the chancellor and the co-provosts. I would like for both of all three to make any reports that they have first, and then after they've both given their reports, we'll do a question and answer session. So are you guys here? Yep, I see the chancellor.
Yes, I think we're here. I think Bob's on here. I think we're
Yes,
here.
I'm here as well.
There you are.
Perfect, thank you. So Chancellor, if you want to get us started.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rader. I appreciate you. Again, congratulations to you and the rest of your team. I think you guys are going to do an awesome job. And just to echo your comments, it's hard to believe that we're in our final week leading up to commencement this Saturday. So it's really good to see everyone on the call. I know you're in the midst of giving finals, and I know that because Dr. Anaza, I don't know if you realize that I was having breakfast with some students the other day, and they were talking about how hard your final exam was going to be. So FYI, you scared a few students I was sitting with. You were the topic of conversation, just so you know, in a good way, but they were nervous about what you have in store for them. So I know that's the case probably for most of you on the call. So that's a good thing. Let me first start by acknowledging our Faculty Excellence Award winners. Since the last time we talked, I don't know if you got a chance to I'm sure you've been able to see it everywhere, but Dr. Coley, Dr. Durham, Dr. Marlowe, Dr. Nalafar. I know some may be on this call. Those were our Faculty Excellence Award winners. So if you get a chance to see them, please congratulate them. I know we have them plastered in different places on the web and all around. Many of you on this call probably even wrote a letter of support for them. So thank you for doing that. And again, it's always good to acknowledge those individuals. I'm going to attempt to, well, I don't know if it will allow me to do it, but I was going to share my screen, and sure enough, now I sound like Dr. Satsoulis here. Every one of our meetings, he always, all right, here it is. Wait a minute. I want to share with you.
This is the second time I get picked on today. I don't understand.
The second time. This is just perfect timing for you. Hopefully you can see that from what I'm sharing. You'll notice this is our lead SIUC group. This is our second year of doing this. We get nominations that come in from all over. We can't have, we get a lot of nominations, but we only try and limit it to about 10 to 15 spots. And so not everyone can be part of the group, but maybe next year. But you'll notice on here, we've got some faculty, in addition to obviously some staff who will be part of that particular cohort. We'll work together for the full academic year. We also attend our APLU conference together, but this is a group that they've either been identified as an emerging leader or someone that's interested in making some moves within the institution as it relates to moving up. So really excited about that. And again, I just wanted you to see some of the names and some of the folks actually on the call with us today. So I wanted to thank them. I see Dr. Maxim on there and others. So again, congratulations to that group. And we're going to have fun again all year. So new employees, you'll probably hear, or you've probably been able to see some of our updates. Some key personnel hires we have coming on board here really soon. Obviously, our provost will be here in June. Look forward to Dr. Tucker arriving. Our Chief Human Resource Officer, that's a position we've had in an interim capacity for quite some time. So we're finally going to have our Chief Human Resource Officer. He's coming in from Ohio University. Look forward to having him and hitting the ground. Our Chief Marketing Officer, Jim Potter, is moving on. So we have a new person coming on board. Jeff, he used to work at Southeast Missouri State and most recently at the University of Missouri. So he will be here in June as well. One position that Dr. Lee and I have been talking about for a long time that we needed was our Director of Institutional Effectiveness Research and Planning. That position we have needed for a long time now, and we finally will be announcing David Shirley, who is coming from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. A lot of experience in the institutional effectiveness research and planning world. So look forward to him being here. He's got some really good experience, most of which has been in SACS, which is where I came from, but that will translate nicely into HLC. So we're really excited about him being on board and taking on that role. So you'll hear more and more about him as he gets on board. Just some very quick things. As you know, the legislative session is still in play. This is a critical month for us. Last week I was in Springfield, got a chance to bend the governor's ear for about 4 minutes. You know, you don't get a long time there when you're walking through a line, but we at least got a chance. I got a chance personally to talk with him and thank him for some of the things that he was putting in motion, and really speak selfishly to SIU Carbondale on a couple of different projects. So, you know, it's a wait and see mentality at this point. There's a lot of things that we've been able to put in and put on the minds of state representatives and senators and those folks who support us. But for us, it's a wait and see at this point. So still feeling pretty good about the session overall in terms of what we've been able to communicate. And so we'll see how that goes. The biggest item in there, obviously, is what you've heard the governor mention on the 7% for higher education. the MAP grants, AIM, funding to help our students. You're hearing a lot about that. A little bit of a speed bump about a week ago about maybe an overestimation on revenues from the state. So waiting to see how that plays out. And again, we'll hear more and more about that shortly. Internally, from a budgetary standpoint, we've put together a few models for our budget for next fiscal year. As you know, next year is the last year, the final year of the financial sustainability plan. That was a 7-year plan, started back in 2017. We will be so excited. We may have a party out in the middle of campus when we can finally get this out of our way. But that has been a tremendous strain on us for the last 7 years. I mean, you think about having to pay back upwards of $5 million plus every year. It does put a strain. We're hopeful once we get that out of our way in this next fiscal year. There are some things we still need to do to be conservative in our spending. We need to be efficient. We need to make sure that we don't get too carried away on spending. But we have modeled a few things that relate to a 1 and/or 2% increase for faculty and staff as far as salary is concerned. So we've got the numbers on what that would look like. That would be something that I would obviously pitch to the board. We've been doing that now. The last 2 years, we've had some increases. So we'd like to continue that. And we think it's much needed. And we're not calling it a cost of living adjustment because it really is not that. It's not really keeping up pace with where we need to be, but every little bit hopefully will help. But that's something we will put forward in the budget going forward for next year. If all things play out with our enrollment, which I'll talk about here in just a second, and if all things play out with the state appropriations that come in and the tuition revenue. So all those factors have to be in good shape for us to do that. Enrollment, I want to show you something else that I think is pretty promising. This question usually comes up all the time. Are you guys seeing that yet?
No, there's nothing shared currently.
Okay, let me see. Here it is.
Oh, there it is.
There you go. Okay. So this gives you an idea. We obviously talk about this every week at Cabinet when Wendell Williams and others give their reports. And this information that you're seeing is extremely promising, but I do want to remind you that we still have some weeks to go, right? So we're in the yielding season right now. But this is extremely promising. When you look at the amount of applications, you can see we're up 20% there. When you look at the admitted students, that number is up. The number of enrolled students, we're starting to see some of the efforts that we put in place are actually starting to pay off, whether it's registration and getting students registered, whether it's making sure that those transfer students know how to get to us. Our continuing student population, that's very promising, 2.4%. New students, this number is really looking good. And if you remember last fall, we had the highest freshman class we had here in several years, and we look to probably exceed that this fall. So that number is very promising. Transfer number is up early. Again, a lot of those partnerships and those efforts seem to be working. But again, we've got to yield those students. Readmits is a piece we talked a little bit about this morning and some areas that we could focus on there. Southern Illinois up 2%. These would be students that are coming from our immediate region and area. Illinois residents, this is a very promising number to be out. This is a state initiative, obviously, to keep students here in the state and not have them leave and go other places. So again, you can kind of get an idea from a racial perspective for African American, Hispanic, white. You can see that those numbers are up as well. So again, it's very early. We don't get real happy about it, even though we feel really good about it. But we know that between now and really the first class day, we still have some work to do. Those students can be recruited away from us. So I don't want you leaving this meeting thinking that you don't have to talk to potential students or to talk to existing students. You still need to do that. I know you're working hard on that in your areas. So it's not over yet, right? So we've got a lot of work to do still to get to the finish line. The final piece, and I think you heard Dr. Rader mention this, extremely important that our students see our faculty on commencement. I say this all the time. They won't remember me in 20 years. They will remember you, especially Dr. Anaza, when you get those tough finals. They'll remember you, right? They will not remember me. So I love giving a nice shout out to our faculty when you're there in the arena, and look forward to seeing you. We have 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock ceremonies. So just 2 ceremonies this year, but really excited about ending the year on a high note. And I'll stop there, Dr. Rader. I probably went a little too long, but I figured the last meeting while I had you, I'd give you as much as I have. So I'll stop there, take any questions.
Is it all right if we have Dr. Morgan give his report and then we'll just do a joint question?
Mhm.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. And you're fine on time. We have a relatively short meeting today. So it's a good meeting to expound on all the positive things, especially. Thank you. All right, Dr. Morgan, are you? Oh, there you are.
I am. Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Thank you, Dr. Rader. And again, congratulations to you and thank you for your service. And Dr. Lee, thank you for your 2 years of prior service. We appreciate that. 4 or 5 points I want to touch on, 2 of which are a little bit redundant with Chancellor Lane. The first one being commencement. I'll be sending out an email today to the deans to encourage the faculty attendance. As Chancellor Lane said, that's important for our students. The faculty are who the students are going to remember, but it's also important for the supporters. When we have family, friends, other supporters in the audience, they like to see that the faculty there to support the students. They've sent their students here for 4 or 5 years to work with us, and it's really meaningful, not just for the students, but for those supporters, for us to show up on their big day when their students are graduating. So if you would, please help us pass the word that the more faculty we can have at commencement, the better. Friday night, we have some honor ceremonies. That's always a fun time to celebrate our students that excelled in the classroom. And then Friday, we have our 2 commencements, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Again, just ask for your support and encouragement of all of our faculty that can to show up and support our students and to demonstrate to the families and friends that we're there to support their students. As Chancellor Lane said, Provost Tucker will be here June 15, ready to start. I think there's actually going to be a little bit of onboarding in process. We've already kind of started that process, but she'll be here and in the seat on June 15. I try to not smile too much when I say that, but we're excited to have her here. There's a reason she's coming. We need her. She's ready to join us, and so we're just greatly excited to have her come and take the helm and lead us going forward. Most of you know, I think at this point, that we have a system-wide initiative to create pathways to graduation by way of course sharing with SIUE. So we've each identified a few select courses where students from the alternate campus can take courses that might not be available on their particular campus. These are online courses, again, with the idea of helping to facilitate time to graduation and affording students opportunities to get some coursework that they may not otherwise be able to receive. We're on pace with that. I think our first students are starting this summer in a very limited number, with a more detailed rollout in the fall. But even the fall, that's still a pilot stage. We're pilot testing our processes to make sure that we catch where the hiccups are, where the problems are. So we're keeping the course numbers that are available and the number of students that will be participating at reasonably small numbers, really, again, just to pilot test our processes. But that's in progress and looks very encouraging so far. Another item, piggybacking off Chancellor Lane, the enrollment report. In addition to the details he provided in the graph, overall, we're projected at about a 6% increase. That's our current enrollments to this time last year. And it's particularly encouraging because we started a week later. So we're not only up by way of projections, but we're up while being a week behind in terms of our efforts. So as Chancellor Lane said, we have a lot between now and the fall. Particularly, we worry about summer melt, and that's where students that had indicated they were going to come start drifting off and not following through. So we're really working to finalize our yield and then to protect against that summer melt. That's kind of where we're at. And this is the graph with data for the overall and by colleges. And you can see there that some of the colleges are up quite high. And overall, again, we're looking at about a 6.17% increase current enrollments over this time last year, even though we're a week behind this year. So again, that's very encouraging. Then the last point is we are continuing our work on the probation and suspension policy. We're looking to propose a revision to that policy. Thank you to all of you. Dr. Lee provided a summary of feedback from Faculty Senate. So we're working to incorporate that feedback into the policy revision. Hope to have that done in the next week or so, and then we'll move it forward for review by the UEPC committee and hopefully a formal resolution for Faculty Senate to vote at. Dr. Rader, I think you said that possibly could happen at the July meeting. So that's what we're shooting for, to implement this as early as the fall, depending on some wrinkles that we need to iron out. So that's my report. Thank you for letting me be here and happy to answer any questions.
And I'll open the floor to questions to both Provost Morgan and Chancellor Lane. I have a quick question. Is it possible to share the enrollment information with our faculty in terms of, did you have could you send us that part of that PowerPoint or that information to circulate around?
Yeah, I'll have Wendell send you a kind of a summarized report that he gives. I'll have him send that directly to you, Dr. Rader, and that information you're free to share and move it around. The only thing we usually say is it's 15 weeks out. So, just highlight the 15 weeks and go from there all the way down to one day. That way you at least get a sense of where it's trailing week to week to week. We look at it every day, but that'll kind of give you a week to week look.
That's great. Thank you. Dr. Lee?
Yes, okay. Not a question, just comments, if I may. First of all, I appreciate the Chancellor and Co-Provost Morgan for the update. I think absolutely very helpful. And I think the question, not all comments about the enrollment, the Chancellor, the enrollment data overall, does this include both traditional and online or just traditional students? I know when Associate Chancellor Wendell Williams works very hard, and also many partnership agreement or development which yield results. We appreciate you or team efforts.
Yeah, that data there, it's going to be a mixture of both of those categories of students in there. You're going to have some non-traditional and traditional. We'll also send, so you can see it broken out a little bit, the on-campus versus off-campus or fully online. We usually have that report too. We didn't get it today, but that number is up as well. So we'll make sure to send that in that document for you.
So include both online on campus together, right?
Yeah.
And second, we need to Faculty Senate ad hoc committee on institutional ranking as well as education quality, because we cover 3 areas. Area 1 focus on student success, financial support. Area 2, reputation and relationship. Area 3, faculty quality and compensation. And obviously, all this, we have had all the data. I'm so happy that institutional effective research director is hired, and also we work together with different offices, including the provost office, student affairs office, communication office. Now, the question or comment is that, okay, one area we need to the faculty quality and faculty compensation. You mentioned this, that obviously we are doing internal equity adjustment. And do you know when will, I know you plan to have external equity adjustment too, if budget allows. Okay, I'm just curious from the faculty perspective, when will internal equity adjustment will be completed? I know faculty senate budget committee work on this. So this is a kind of, I'm just curious. Again, that's comments. We may know, we have no definite answer.
Yeah, I think where it is now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking at Dr. Eckholtz and that group. They're meeting with Dr. Morris. I don't know if Dr. Morris is on here, but I think the idea is that we get that data that came from the committee that looked at the faculty salaries. We should then take that data and start to put it together and create that faculty internal equity study piece. So once we have that information, it's just a matter of looking at the areas that are probably the most egregious in terms of where people should be as they compare to each other. And hopefully we can get that. I'm looking at Dr. Eccles there. Does that sound about right with the information?
Yeah, Chancellor, we're meeting, Farhan and I are meeting with Mark next week. We've provided him what we consider a draft of the final report. We want to discuss it with him to make sure he's comfortable with what we did. And then assuming he's good with it, then we'll pass it off to we'll provide a final report to the administration and the various faculty and groups to review it and leave it to you guys and the faculty associations to then negotiate.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. So I'm glad it is there. And that'll help us keep moving the ball.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. And the reason why I mentioned these comments, offer these comments, because it is direct related to Vision 2030, for example. Think about the faculty quality, which will have a direct impact on our research. We need to attract or to keep top-notch research faculty member if we want to become research one university. And also enrollment, I agree, student support, very important, which is related to student success, and reputation and relationship, which is directly related to Vision 2030 or Imagine 2030, like a branding partnership. That's why Faculty Senate Idaho Committee has much to do to help to support Imagine 2030 strategic direction. Thank you. I appreciate your teamwork, and also final notes, Dr. Morgan, I think the probation policy, we send you the comments. If obviously faculty member have more comments, please send to new president Bethany Rader, who will pass to the co-provost, which will be very important. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Satsoulis is going to really feel like I'm picking on him now, but he did a great job. One of our meetings the other day is we were talking about our strategy for becoming an R1 institution, and is putting together a pretty, what I consider to be widespread committee that will capture a lot of the things you said, Dr. Lee, but really help us move the needle in that direction. And so again, I know he has already sent out some of that information, soliciting some names for that committee. Dr. Satsoulis, you want to say something about that? I don't know if you were scheduled to say something about it. Is that okay?
No, that's fine. That's fine. First of all, that's not picking on me. That's good. So I appreciate it.
You'll take that one, huh?
I'll take that one. I just sent out emails to a number of constituencies, HR, IR, deans, graduate school, GPSC, finance, School of Medicine, and so on, to create an ad hoc committee to look at steps that we need to take to keep progressing towards R1. I will also ask representation from the research committee of the Graduate Council. They just recently elected, so We're waiting to know who will be a member of that committee before we approach them, as well as from the faculty senate to have as much faculty representation as possible. So please stay tuned for a message, and I will accept volunteers. I also realize it's a pretty large committee, so we will try to divide it into subcommittees so that they at least can meet. We cannot have a committee of 15 people meeting regularly. That becomes really untenable. And then meet as representatives of the different subcommittees. So that's the plan right now. So far, I have 2 representatives from the deans, and I'm approaching everybody else to send me the representatives.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Of course.
It's a silly question, but when did you send out that email? Was that relatively recently?
I have not sent out the email
okay.
to everybody yet. Definitely not to the faculty senate committee, the faculty senate, because of the elections that were happening and the new groups. So Dr. Rader, you will be my contact. So expect an email.
Perfect. Thank you. I will expect an email. Any other questions for the chancellor? Oh, Khalid.
Yes. I have one actually. This is actually concerning research. We have a database in SIU that OSPA actually has been holding for many years. It does have a name of active researchers at SIU, and you do have access to this data. So I would really like to see the active researchers at SIU being in that committee, because they know, the challenges, difficulties, and how you can make it, happen in SIU.
Thank you. That's a very good point. We have a database. We have a database that I have checked is good for about the last 4 or 5 years. And frankly, how far back should we go? So the good news, which makes it difficult at the same time, is that we have a lot of our faculty who are very, very well positioned in research, and also not just in research, but also in graduate education, which is important for our R1 ranking, in scholarship, in creative activities. So we'll try to have as much representation as possible.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chancellor or the provost? All right, thank you guys very much. Thank you for the reports, chancellor and provost. We appreciate it. And with that, I think we'll continue on with our items.
Thank you.
Our agenda. Thank you. All right, so coming up next is the reports from all of our different standing and ad hoc committees. As we don't have all of the chairs yet for our committees, not all of the committees will be reporting at this meeting. However, again, at the July meeting, the expectation is that we will have chairs for all of the committees, and therefore there will be a report time for every committee. But I'll start off with the executive committee, and I just had one discussion that we had at EC last week that I wanted to share. And that was that we discussed hosting a meet and greet between Provost Tucker and the Senate early sometime fall semester. And so keep an eye out for information as we are thinking about planning that and looking at logistics and those sorts of things. But we figured it would be a really good opportunity for her to get to know us and us to get to know the new provost. Any questions? All right, we'll move on to our election committee chair, Elaine Drakowski.
Thank you. So as you heard earlier today, we have 5 new committee senators that have been elected by an extended search. And I'm grateful for all of you who have been elected and for your constituency groups or your colleges that were able to recruit you. We have one existing opening that we're going to wait till the fall and try and fill. And then we have another senator that we thought we would need an election, but I think that they're taking just a leave and will be served by proxy. In addition to that, as vice president, I'm the liaison to the graduate council. So I did attend their meeting last week. And I was pleased to see that our new chair is going to be Scott. Their new chair for grad council will be Scott Collins. I'm biased because he's from our college, but he's also just a really good person to be in that role. So it was exciting to see so many of the parallels and the collaboration that I think we can see moving forward between faculty senate and grad council. So I say that very optimistically. I was pleased with how organized they were and just how collaborative that they would like to be. So that is my report for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. That was my experience as well over the past couple of
Oh,
years
good.
with grad council, absolutely. All right, any questions for the election committee? All right, we'll move on to the committee on committees. I believe Sherry, are you here?
I am. I think Amber's.
Oh,
gonna
Amber is
report.
as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Do you guys have anything to report?
Yeah. I'm not sure where Amber is, but we went ahead and assigned everybody to their committees. I believe, are we going to today ask for a vote on those committee assignments?
Yes.
Okay, so Josh, I think, was going to share. He sent out the committee assignments to everyone on Faculty Senate, so everyone has had a chance to look at them. I don't know if he wanted to share that file.
I can share my screen if you want. It's no work.
Okay, and then Amber is here, and I'm going to let her take over. I don't know if maybe her audio isn't.
I'm here. No, I've got it
Okay, there
on.
you go. There you go.
We can see there on the screen. Are we going to share that with everyone? I don't see any point in me reading that out.
No, I think the share is fine. And everyone should be able to see it.
So are there any questions about that? If anyone has an issue for some reason with their placement, we really tried to give everybody their first, and everybody did get either their first or their second choice, and most people got their first. If you do have an issue with that, you can contact me and or Sherry, and we can see what we can do about that. Some conflicts or some kind of need to be moved. Otherwise, Sherry and Josh, are you going to send this out? Is this kind of finalized then?
This
Yes,
is the final list.
Yeah, and I believe it has been sent out. Is that correct, Josh?
Yes, it's been shared.
Okay, good.
Yuting, do you have a question? Oh, you're muted, Yuting.
If possible, we may need to sign the 1 or 2 more people to UEPC because UEPC always a lot of work to do. So I know that currently we have about the average number, 80 people. So just footnotes, UEPC will in fact have a few proposals still in the pipeline. They need to work on it right now. So the 2 comments on, if possible, we may need 1 more member on this committee. Point 2, when are you going to elect the chairs, co-chairs? My suggestion to have co-chairs because it doesn't matter which committee, it's good to share work, share responsibility. So it's now you chair some, COC's duty to select, to help to elect the co-chair for each standing committees.
But just a reminder that it's
Actually, I don't think it's up to the committee on committees to elect the chairs of each committee. That's up to that
Correct.
committee.
Correct. It's the committee
Yeah.
members that vote on who the chair.
Yeah,
and
let
co-chairs are.
let me withdraw a little bit. Let me say it, backtrack a little bit. I'm saying that it's committee on committee to facilitate by working with each committee to enact the chairs. Someone need to get started. So that's past practices in the, I mean, when I worked with Scott Comparado and the two past co-chairs, Yinan and Sung-Ki. So that's my suggestion. Otherwise, the board will never be rolled. And I will, I mean, if we read the opening paper, really, the committee on committee need to help to facilitate. And then each committee is going to enact the co-chairs.
And
Right,
then
we are facilitating. We just put them together and we're asking for, input. So you think we need some other people on the UEPC? Sherry, is there anyone who has not been assigned?
No, there isn't anyone who hasn't been assigned. And we could ask for a volunteer if somebody wants to contact us, but otherwise, I mean, we have 7 people on there now. And then I want to go back to the selection of the committee chairs. And, when I was chair of this committee in the past, things were a bit different because we met in person and we would break out and the committees would meet together and go ahead and select their chair and in some cases co-chairs. I'm not going to dictate to the committees whether they have co-chairs or an individual chair. We're going to let the committees work that out. I'll talk to Amber and Bethany after this meeting, and we will figure out what we're going to do to facilitate that. But we'll get that rolling before the July meeting, and I'm not too worried about it.
So once the co-chairs have been elected within the committees, then those names come back to the committee on committees, and the committee and committee members vote to ratify it, and then it comes back to Faculty Senate.
We'll do that. We'll bring that to the Senate in July.
Sounds great. Good.
Thank you. And sorry, Mike.
Sherry, I'll make your life a little bit easier and I'll go ahead and organize the budget committee meeting prior to our next meeting, and then we can vote for our chair and co-chair at that time.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Much appreciated.
Could we go ahead and get a volunteer from each group to do just that?
I volunteer for the governance committee.
Thank you, Khalid.
And for Faculty Status Welfare Committee, if no one else is interested, I would be very happy to facilitate. And also I would like to have a co-chair if possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Do we have any returning members to UEPC that were in UEPC last year? Or is it a whole new committee?
I can reach out to Jeff Punske. I think he's on here.
Yeah, he's not on the meeting today. He was unable to come to this meeting. But
I can reach out to Jeff and ask him if he would.
And I'm happy to reach out to EPC and get the ball rolling as well. It's I have been on it in the past, and it is near and dear to my heart.
Okay, I'll count on you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's in terms of the number of people on UAPC, my suggestion is to go through the summer, see how those 7 members play out, and then if there seems to be a need for extra members, we can address it at that time. Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right. Well, there was a quick question in the chat. What does UEPC mean? It's the Undergraduate Education and Policy Committee, for clarification. It is the committee that does probably the most work out of the Senate, because all RMEs, NUIs, thank you. And policy changes go through UEPC before they come to the EC or the Senate. So.
And Sarah, if you are interested in serving on UEPC, just let us know.
Right, are there any other questions or comments for the Committee on Committees before we go ahead and vote to approve the committee membership? All right, Sherry or Amber, do you want to take it away?
So would anyone like to offer a motion to approve the committee assignments?
Motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Can we have raised hands for everyone who approves? Is Michael counting these?
Yes.
Okay.
As well as Josh, and I can't stop myself from doing it as well. So I have 21.
21 too.
Go ahead and lower your
Okay, and is anyone opposed?
Make sure to lower your hands if you have already approved.
So
One opposed?
one opposed?
Lingo, are you in opposition?
No, I forgot to lower my hand. Apologize.
No worries, no worries. So no opposed.
No opposed. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, and then of course abstentions really quick.
Oh, I'm sorry, abstentions. And Jane is. Hi, Jane.
All right, you can lower your hand.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Do you have any other business? COC?
Amber?
All right, let us move on. Next on our agenda is the Faculty Advisory Council to IBHE, Li Cheng Wang.
Oh, good afternoon. We didn't have any meeting this time, so hopefully next time I will report. Thank you.
Thank you, Li Cheng. Continuing on, report from the VC of Research, Kostas Satsoulis.
Thank you. I will share my screen. These are our graduate admissions as of this week. Our applications were up about 12% compared to the same period of time last year. I don't expect to see a lot of applications coming in until about June. But you can see the increase in admissions. We have more than doubled the admissions. And some of it is, as I've mentioned before, thanks to the permission that we're given by the Graduate Council to change and speed up the way that we perform admissions. You also see that we have almost doubled the number of students who are currently enrolled. Graduate students don't enroll very early, especially if they're not new or if they're international. But it's good to see that we had so far over 16% in the yield of the students that have been enrolled. Some of you may have noticed that there is an update on the updated financial data in I-20s. We have gone through an internal audit to identify what exactly is the financial information that should be included in I-20s. For ones of you who do not know what an I-20 is, it's the official document that we need to provide to international students to show that they have the resources to attend for 1 year our institution, and it's necessary for them to receive a visa when they make an appointment with an embassy. We are also built a survey to contact students who were admitted but chose not to join SIUC. We're doing a dry run. Well, it's not really a dry run, but we're contacting, first of all, spring students, spring 2023. We know it's a little bit late, but we want to make sure that everything works out fine, that we can, there are no errors in the survey. And then we'll give the survey to our fall 2023 students a couple of weeks into the semester when we know who has been admitted but not joining us. And also we are working with Wendell Williams and also Dr. Peter Lee in CIE to do an overview of our existing active international agreements to make sure that we increase the number of our international graduate and, if possibly, undergraduate students. This past week, on Thursday and Friday, we organized 2 Let's Talk Research workshops. One was focusing on funding opportunities for the arts and the humanities. It was a Zoom workshop, which we have taped, and it was on our website. We had almost 35 participants. I think it went really well. And then the following day, we had a face-to-face workshop on early career research funding opportunities. We had a panel of our faculty who either were career awardees or reviewed for NSF career proposals. We also discussed a number of other early career funding opportunities for a number of agencies like DoD, NASA, NIH, and so on. And this is also being put online. We have not closed the books on April yet. It's still a little bit early, but as of March 31st, the proposal submissions were a little bit over $105 million, and our awards close to $59 million. Last year, for the whole year, our awards were about $55 million. So we've already broken a record in research awards. All this information can be accessed at the link that I'm showing there. This is only this fiscal year information. It shows proposals, submissions, and awards. That's all I had. Any questions?
I do have a question, not about that. I'm sorry, Khalid. When will I don't know if this comes from your office, but when will we know who the director of the graduate school should be?
That's a very good question. The search process has completed. We are currently talking to HR because HR needs to give permission, and that information will then be shared. Also, since this is a position that is 2 steps from the chancellor, we also need to get system level permission from the president. Unfortunately, this is, the process is a little bit, taking a little bit longer than I would hope. I'm hoping that this week, or at least Monday or Tuesday next week, there will be an announcement.
Go ahead, Khalid.
Yes, Dr. Tsatsoulis, I have just a question about, the assistantships that are available to the graduate school to support our grad students. Can you give us a number, how many, they are available to all grad students in SIU?
Okay, that's a very good question. The number of teaching or graduate assistantships available through the graduate school is a small percentage of the total number. The assistantship the graduate school awards are called TAAs, the teaching assistance allocations. They're funding by the state, and the goal was to support, and still is, to support the Common Core and undergraduate teaching. We have about $1.1 million in that. Now you have to compare, that's close to a little bit over 10% of the whole amount of money that is being spent by the university in GAs.
Okay. And how is this allocated? Can you give us, the process by which the assistantships are allocated to every school or colleges?
Yes, there was an allocation committee that met during the whole fall 2022, and they came up with a formula which is based on the enrollment in undergraduate classes, the enrollment in core curriculum courses, and so on, and then allocate a certain percentage of the funds. These funds have been allocated to the deans sometime in, I want to say in February or January. So it's completely transparent, and I will be more than happy to share with anybody who wants it, the spreadsheet of how we allocated those funds. The other thing that I told the deans is that it makes no sense for us to be allocating these TAA positions in the spring semester. So since the metrics are based on enrollments of the fall semester, what I told them that we will do is around September or mid to late September, we will be allocating the funds because we know what the enrollments will be. This way, the deans and the school directors may have an opportunity to use these funds earlier for recruiting.
I fully agree with you actually on that one. And beside those TA assistantships, is there any other assistantships that are allocated to the graduate school to all our, students at SIU?
The graduate school does not control any other funds. We do control some funds and fellowships and scholarships for graduate students, such as the thesis and dissertation scholarship, and there's a number of other fellowships. But we do not have any other GA funds. The only funds we have are the state TAA funds.
Thank you very much. If I can make a suggestion, because now that every college has somehow settled down and we have PhD program coordinators for almost every program, would it be possible to share this information with the PhD coordinators and ask them to basically share the information with the PhD students? Because a lot of people, they don't have access to the information, and we all know information is key.
This information has been given to the deans, and they should, you can request it from them to provide that. I don't know what the use would be for the PhD students, but we'd be more than happy to share that information with the GPSC, for example. There's nothing hidden there. There's a very clear formula and percentages, and the amount of money is fixed. So I have no problem doing whatever you like in terms to distribute that information.
Yeah, it's usually easy when it comes from the top, please share with your faculty, then, from me going to ask and then somebody else, because this concerns everybody in SIU. So we would like to, this process, it's very transparent from your side. It should be transparent all the way down, that everybody does have access to the information.
I said I have no problem with that. I will ask the deans to move it forward to the school directors.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, Mike.
Hey, has anybody discussed potentially increasing the stipends for the graduate students in your office at this point?
There have been conversations university-wide. It does not really come from my office, since I said I don't control any funds. But I know that both the Graduate Student Union, the GPSC, and also the Chancellor's office has been looking at increases in the stipends. And if not increase in the stipends, more flexibility on how the stipends can be spent.
Okay. I think one of our difficulties, especially in attracting PhD students right now, is we're really just not competitive, even if we consider the cost of living and how much cheaper it is to live here than it is at other places. So I think anything we can do to increase that would be really, or at least add more flexibility to it, would be really helpful.
Understood. Thank you.
Actually, to give you a more appropriate figure, because I have 2 PhD students and 2 grad students, and I've asked them, to put a budget. Whatever, TA that we give them, I mean, especially in my case, it's research assistantship. They end up paying every month $450 back to SIU for 4 months. And they have to live with almost $900 to pay their rent, to pay their food, to pay everything. So some of them, they regret that they accepted to come to SIU, I can tell you that. And this is very important. If we want to retain the best, then we will have to be, more competitive. Something that was brought to me also and I was able actually to verify the information, and you can find it through the OSPA webpage for the rate for graduate assistantships. There is a huge differences between if you are in this college versus the other one. So they are not paid the same amount of money, and we don't know why, same university, different pay, depending on you are here or there. So that has to be reviewed, because we're not really giving a good image for, how we compensate our PhD students.
This is something that's been negotiated with the union, these amounts. But since you mentioned externally funded RAs, I want to point out that the agreement with the union for these stipends is that these stipends are the floor. So you should feel free to compensate your students from external grants at a higher level, as long as the funding agency so allows.
That's not what we've been being told.
Exactly.
That is not, no, if you look at the agreement with the union, it is that this is the minimum. And there is nothing that says that you cannot ask your federal funding agency to pay a higher amount.
I've sent proposals multiple times into OSPA and been told that I cannot send a proposal in for that amount. The rate is what we're provided.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a discussion then to
Then we'll
clarify.
fix that. There is no reason for discussion. We'll just tell them not to do that.
Thank you very much.
I mean, seriously, there is a federal limit, which is approximately $3,000 a month, which corresponds to the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. And if you're under that and above our minimum stipend, you should be okay. So I'll just mention that to OSPA.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Great, thank you for your report, and thank you, Mike and Khalid, for the clarification on that issue. That was news to me as well. All right, let's move on our agenda. Do we have our graduate council representative here today? I know they probably just had their elections as well. We may not have them here at the moment.
Don't see anyone.
Okay, I'll reach out to them and make sure that they are present at the July meeting. And then the last report we have in our report section is from the Ad Hoc Committee on Institutional Ranking and Educational Quality, Elaine Oryuting.
Yes, so good afternoon. As I said at the last meeting, we met on April 18th. We will share the meeting results with you, the meeting minutes actually with the faculty senate, hopefully at July's meeting. As you know, we had 3 subcommittees who presented their work. Students with student success and financial support, they present excellent results and data. And then the second subcommittee or group, reputation and academic reputation and relationship. Also, we shared the results discussion with the entire group. And then the third group is the faculty quality and compensation. And in fact, they presented their results. That's why, about half an hour ago, I asked Chancellor Nance, actually made some comments in connection with Imagine 2030. So any question, comments for me? Or Elaine, you want to add something?
I just want to add that, this has become, really so important, the work we're doing in order to really help move towards the strategic goals for 2030. And with the view of trying to catapult the university to an R01 institution, I think it's so important that we undertake this and continue to monitor and showcase areas that we can improve with data.
Very good comments, and also not just our Research One University. Remember, about a few years ago, we were ranked national university based on US News World Report, almost 150. So now it's 263. So we need to improve our ranking. That's why all this area will help. So include the research, student success, academic reputation, faculty compensation, quality. It's a holistic package approach, which is consistent with university strategic direction.
Any questions or comments?
Dr. Lee, I think this is a concern that not only concern faculty senate, but there should be a university-wide committee actually that include part of even graduate council and other councils to look into that, because it concerns everybody in SIU, and I believe the appropriate way is to have a wide committee, for that.
Dr. Maxson, absolutely excellent points. That's why our faculty senator is just one of the constituencies. We invited different officers, include the provost office and student affairs office, communication office, and other office. That's why, a faculty graduate council, they're welcome to come. However, because we have to function based on our regional resolution, and we have students there, and basically we need 3 students who are undergraduate students. And for subcommittee 3, which is
Did you ting freeze for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, we'll hope he comes back. Well, while we're waiting, Elaine, would you be willing to field either Khalid's question or Mike's question?
Sure. So in terms of volunteers, there was a resolution made about the development of this committee, and it stipulated how many faculty members and from what constituency groups the composition of the larger body should be. So we did lose some people last year, and the Committee on Committees sent out a notice through Josh to all faculty on campus about securing more volunteers, which is what we did. And we did replace 3 people that had left the committee with other campus-wide folks. Now we do have subcommittees. So these subcommittees, we could bring on other people onto the subcommittees. And so if there are folks who are part of our current faculty senate that have an interest in being involved, let us know, and we'll, see where we can try to fit you on to some subcommittee activity.
That answer your question, Khalid?
To a certain extent, really, if you look at the ranking of a university like ours, it does involve really different things, including assistantships that we offer, fellowships, go into infrastructure, to many, many other things. And that's why, for me, to be more efficient, there should be, a university-wide committee. I mean, we hear some of the good news, like the increase in our, graduate assistantships, the attendees of the SIU and 16% and all these things. So those news has to be transformed, into numbers that could actually make the university go back, to the ranking where we were before, including, funding, for example, including many of the other staff. And you need people that can translate those numbers and communicate, in more efficient ways, those numbers that could take us back at least, a few steps. We're not going to go back maybe to 150, but going back at least to 199 will send a good feeling.
So that's actually a really good point, Dr. Maxim. But one of the things that I want to share with you is that we actually kind of took the format that's used for the institutional rankings, and what items had high impact rankings or contributed to what percentage of the ranking. So we decoupled those things and broke them down. And after breaking them down, that's how we kind of moved into 3 different subcommittees. So each subcommittee has looked very carefully at, what items contribute to the institutional ranking, and to what degree are we above or below where we should be that would contribute in a positive way. So like, for example, the faculty piece, the pay and faculty equity is very much below what, the standard is. And the percentage that we contribute is very low towards that total. So that's one of the reasons that we've put a lot of emphasis on that faculty equity and salary and the salary compression report. That's a very major reason why that's becoming so important. Other things have to do with like recruitment and retention. So the committee that's looking at that aspect has looked at, what percentage of the report has the most impact in terms of what the university reports to the US World News Report. So we've been working like prior to our reignition of the committee. Prior to that, we worked very closely with the Division of Institutional Effectiveness, and they shared with us very liberally the entire report that they give and they have to submit. And we looked at all of the items to take a look at which items were the ones that were having an impact in a negative way, as opposed to contributing to the overall ranking. And then we decided to make the items where we're not performing we decided to make those a priority for us to begin to work on, and then identify, our goal is to then move towards some kind of strategic action so that those items we can move the needle on those items and move it closer to, improving our ranking. So it's kind of a complex process. And, we've kind of gone through a reorientation with our new membership that just joined us. So we spent a good part of this semester just reorienting everyone and really looking and taking a deep dive into all the pockets of data from the places where we have data. And, so we strategically invited people onto the subcommittees who could provide us easy access to the data, like Wendell Williams, for example. He's got the pulse on the data. So rather than just inviting him as a guest, he's actually on the committee and he can bring updates with those reports and then help us to identify what do we need to move in order to move that needle on those particular areas that are ranked poorly. So we'd be happy to sit down with you and share all that with you so that you understand it. And, if people want a kind of deeper insight into it, maybe through the summer, we can work on looking at preparing something that we can share with all senators so you understand a little bit of the complexity in some of the pieces that we need to move towards. With the new Director of Institutional Effectiveness, we're hoping that that'll also be very helpful. And I happen to have been on that search committee, so I can tell you that was definitely a question we asked him in the interview. We asked him about his experience and, what are his experiences in working with institutions to improve those rankings. So.
It seems to me like you have done an excellent job already, and you have, what we call in my field, a lot of preliminary data. And
yes,
that data is very important, and I really, if I must insist, so this should be published and should go to everybody, because you have people talking about salary increases and equity and all these things. So this should go out. This way people, they know that the faculty, they're not asking for that just like that, but it concerns, the reputation of the university. It concerns many of the other things. It should support actually the negotiations, that's going on always.
Well, that is you are right. Your finger's right on the money on that one, because that is one of the hopes we have with the data and the work that the budget committee's been doing. So that it's not just a matter of trying to advocate that we need change, but we're using the argument with data and empirical support to be able to help facilitate those things. And I've seen a really positive receptivity from upper administration in terms of having that data to be able to help push their decision making.
Yes, because we live in a world where if you have data to share with whoever you go and you ask for money for, they will listen to you and they will be willing to do something. But if you don't have data and you just come ask for something, they're going to look at you like, well, for what do you need it?
But for what it's worth, I think it would be a great idea for this committee to, at some point,
Yeah.
probably early in the semester, give a report on their process and what they've found, they found. I
Yes,
think
and
that would be
maybe
Yeah, I
wonderful.
appreciate that.
I
This
would
helps
recommend
us.
sharing it with the Daily Egyptian, for publication at least to the whole SIU community.
Sure, this does help us, kind of identify how we should, maybe use it to use what we've learned to help educate the broader community. So thank you for asking the question.
Thank you very much. Thank you for clarification. Thank you.
Dr. Satsoulis, did you have a comment or a question? I saw your hand go up once or twice.
No, I think it was covered. I mean, I didn't want anybody to think that anything that has to do with graduate school impacts our US News and World ranking. It's all undergraduate. It's size of classes, it's graduation rates, retention, and each one has a weight, as you know, and then faculty compensation is a black box. They don't tell us what they do. But since I've heard like stipends and grad GAs and so on, that has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Thank you for the clarification. All right. We never got Yuting, and then Mike Eichholz also disappeared. I'm wondering if LS3 had some sort of network outage, but I think we will move on if there are no more questions for the ad hoc committee. Okay, we're going to move on to old business. I do have one item I wanted to share for old business, and that's in regards to a resolution that we passed, I believe, on April 25th, authorizing the creation of an ad hoc committee on the consensual relationships policy, or reviewing the consensual relationships policy. I wanted to mention that I had a brief conversation with Chief of Staff Matt Bauman, who mentioned that they are already reviewing this policy, and I am talking with him and trying to meet with General Counsel Deb Nelson to further define the committee's responsibilities and their responsibilities in this process. So I don't have anything solid to report, but I wanted to mention that I am working towards that with administration. Any questions about that? All right, any other old business? All right, moving on to new business. We do have one item of new business, and that is approval of our schedule, both the FS schedule and the Executive Council schedule for fiscal year 2024, the upcoming academic year. You should all have been emailed, excuse me, a copy of those schedules. In essence, FSEC is always the first Tuesday of the month. The FS is the second Tuesday of the month, and that changes only if there's a holiday that impedes one of those meetings. So take a look at it. Hopefully you have taken a look at it already, and then we just need to have a motion and a vote to approve that schedule. Any questions first? Pretty straightforward. All right, can I have a motion to approve those schedules?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Amber, or Sherry. I saw Amber's hand and I heard Sherry's voice.
We're the same person.
I don't believe that. All right, with the motion in a second, let us move to a vote. All in favor of approving this schedule for next year? I have 18, including you, Michael.
19, including me, is what I got.
All right, you may lower your hands. Oh God, the teacher comes out in me sometimes. All right, any opposed to the schedule? And any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. We have our schedule set for the upcoming year. Any other new business? All right, so that will conclude this FS meeting. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being on this body. It is an incredibly important part of the university, and we do a lot of work. And you know, I'm excited to see what the upcoming year brings. Again, a quick reminder that we have a meeting in July on July 18th. We will send out the agenda and stuff ahead of time. And because, you know, most of us are off contract and people are doing field work and, you know, all over the world, we will have this meeting on Zoom with the hopes that we will return to a hybrid format meeting in the fall, but July will be online. All right, with that, all we need now is a motion to adjourn. Unless you guys want to stay here, we can keep talking.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. We will assume all votes are yays, and we will see you in about a month. Again, thank you guys for being here.
Hey, Bethany,
Thank
can
you,
you
Bethany.
give me
Yep.
a call so we can talk